Okay, we are moving on to another episode of Life Story, and I've got a special guest today. Her name is Denike Robinson. What's interesting about Denike is that she is a life coach, but she has set up sort of a women's refuge, women who have come from whether it's domestic abuse or hardships, and really working to empower them. So it's going to be great to listen to her story, how she got into this, how she set up this organization, what her vision and hopes are, and anything else that comes up. So I'm just waiting for her to come on in. And
Better?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, that's good. So, well, anyway, thanks for joining us today. What we do with our Life Stories edition is pretty much talk to interesting people about their journey, what got them into where they are, and we sort of end up by seeing where you're trying to take things through in the next level and stuff. But it's always good, for me as a curious person, just to know you and your journey and where it all started. Where you started as a coach, as a champion of women's rights and empowerment, but also I know there's a vision around supporting children within Africa, Nigeria, and Africa and beyond. So, but this is where you are now. But we can always go back to the beginning, and start from there. So, are you born and raised from Nigeria?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, I'm born and raised in Lagos State, Nigeria. Yes, but I'm originally from Ogun State. I've never been there, actually. My bad.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm a Lagos girl. Proper
Okay.
Lagos girl.
Wow. So, I mean, were you from a big family?
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm from a family of 7.
Wow.
But then growing up, I realized that I'm different from my siblings. I'm the only one from my father. So I have a different father from them. I didn't know that early until 1995 when my parents got divorced. And my stepdad, I was actually bearing his name all through till 1995. And now said it in court that it wasn't my father, and that was a shocker of my life. Of course, after that, 1996, he came back to apologize to me that he was sorry. But then I kept wondering, I'm a very curious person like you too, and I was wondering, why would he choose me if he didn't mean it? Why me? Why not my other siblings and all that? And in 2001, when I was in that time, and I was going to the library to read, and I love reading so much, and I was arranging my mom's room, and the next thing I saw was birth certificate. So I decided to go through the birth certificate, and going through the birth certificate, I saw a strange one, Robinson, and I was like, who is this person? And that was how it started unfolding, knowing who my real father is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so are you the youngest or the middle or the oldest out of
I'm in the
your
middle, actually. I'm in the middle.
Okay, wow, that's now my parents are Nigerian. I went to secondary school in Nigeria, and I left in 91 or so. But when I was out there, that divorce was very, very rare in Nigeria. Regardless of infidelity and stuff, the divorce was almost an unheard of thing. So that's interesting in itself. But I guess also the fact that you found out that as a middle child that this has happened raises so much questions about how, whether if your dad knew all this time, forgiveness and how things were. But for you, how did that shape you, knowing not just, well, the fact that they got divorced, the fact that you found out that they were saying that you aren't his child, and then subsequently finding out, how did that affect you individually?
Well, initially I felt bad. I was so traumatized because it was a shocker of my life. But then I remembered that since 1995, I had it at the back of my mind that there was something wrong. And I knew then that I was different from every of my other siblings. I was like, in quotes, Joseph, like amongst them. I was just different out of every one of them. I was just different. Everybody could tell it. When they see me, they just say, "Oh, Denike is different. She is different," and everything. I was traumatized. I felt bad, like why? God, I started asking God questions. Why me? At some point in my life, I was like, did God bring me here to use me as an experiment on earth? Why do I have to go through all this? Why only me and all that? But I realized it was at that point, I just gave my life to Christ at that point. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The TV was not muted. He just kept on talking. So at that point, I just gave my life to Christ, and that showed me. And one of my friends told me then and said, "Denike, God is the Bible says God is the father of the fatherless and the judge of the widow. God is your father." So I had solace and the fact that I know that God is always there. Even when my father was not there, my biological father was not there, he was there. And right now, he was still there. I guess Christ, I just was able to rest on Christ alone. But I felt odd. I felt bad. I would cry several times, like, I really want to know my dad. And I remembered, I had to change my name in school. I'm a very bold and, would I say bold or courageous? I could be very daring. I think that's the word. I changed my name before my mom got to know, and it
based
was
on
the
what
year
you saw
after.
based on what you saw on the birth certificate?
Based on what I saw on the birth certificate, because I realized that there was something wrong since 1995. And before that time, I had my grandmother. My grandmother said she was in the UK at that point when I was giving birth. But then when she came back to Nigeria, like 2 years after, she knew there was something wrong. There was a missing link. And my mom's younger sister actually told her that she's not sure I am from the same father, but my mom denied it. So because of what she said, I was like, oh, really, this is enough proof. So I went to do affidavit, and then I changed my name. It was a year after I changed my name. She came to pay for my WAEC, and she got to know that I changed my name. And she was looking for somebody else, and they were like, oh, she just changed her name recently to Robinson, and she almost fainted. So I felt bad. I was traumatized.
Okay, in 95, how old were you then? Just so us to know when you
I was 16 years old.
Okay.
At the time she got to know. But I was 15 when I saw my birth certificate. And I was 16 when she got to know that I changed my name. I changed my name at 15.
No, but
without a contact.
How old were you when you found out that your dad's saying in court, "Oh, you're not my child"?
Yeah, I was 10 years old.
10.
Yeah.
So at that young age, did your siblings? How did they treat you any differently? Did they think what this is wrong, or what was
yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, my siblings treated me differently, especially my younger ones. There's a particular younger sister of mine that would abuse me severely. She would tell me I don't have a father. You don't have a father. You're a bastard and everything. And my older siblings were just like, we knew it. She was always different. Everything about her is different, But not that they were abusing me, but one of my younger ones, there's a girl among them that she would always abuse me, that, I'm a bastard, I don't have a father and everything. Anytime we have a fight, arguments, siblings, rivalry and all that.
Well, was this after hearing this, or prior to all this, were you guys all close, no problem? Then after this came out, in the midst of the turmoil between your parents separating, that they were finding a way of blaming you?
Before that time we were close, but they had an issue with me right from time. They would always say I'm different. Everything I do, I'm different. In my grades, I have good grades. I have, so I'm like somebody that everybody loves amongst them. So they're like, even one of my younger ones would say, why are you so beautiful? And I'm like, every one of us is beautiful. It was that bad, but, it became worse afterwards.
Now,
after they got to know.
Yeah, but then were you treated any differently by your dad? Did you feel that he treated you any better or worse as a child before all this happened? Or did you think your mom was more protective of you?
Well, at that point, I believe that my dad was okay. But I noticed that anytime my younger ones did something wrong, I will always be the one to receive the blame. So even at that time, before I got to know anything, I'm always like, why? Why? I didn't have anything to do with that. Why? But other than that, it was okay.
Okay. So now, so you get this sort of revelation at 10, and then you start on your own quest. At that time, did you speak to mom and say, look, what's going on? This is what I've heard, or what did you do?
Yeah, that very day I saw the birth certificate. I called when my mom got back from work. I called her and I just tricked her. I said, "Mommy, somebody came to ask for Mr. Robinson today," and I told the person that there's no Mr. Robinson in this house. And she said, "Yeah, true, this is Mr. Robinson." And she just said, "Oh my God, where did you get that from? Where did you get that from?"
What, the name or the birth certificate?
Okay. Yeah. Where did you see the birth certificate? You need to return it. You need to take it back. And I'm like, you need to take it back. And I'm like, okay. So I went to make photocopy, and I put the original there. So I took the photocopy to my grandmother's house. And after that, even after she got to know that I changed my name in school, there were times that I had to ask her, "Mommy, you need to tell me who my dad is." And and she's like, "Oh, that's your dad." That she doesn't want to talk about it. She was so upset with me, and that you're so daring, you're so rude. Why would you? Why you're so? How dare you change your name in school without my consent? I said, well, because I feel heard amongst everybody. And in 1995, I reminded her of 1995, what happened, and why my stepdad said I was not his child. That what would happen to me eventually if I want to get married? That it's time she'd tell me everything, and then we move on from there. I'm no longer young, but she couldn't reason with me that I needed to know at that point.
Okay.
But she didn't tell me.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, it's fascinating on many points, because I've never. It's being a middle child and not being of your dad, but finding out in such a way is quite fascinating, especially in the Nigerian culture that I can remember, quite conservative, in a sense, just to have such things like that happen. But my question then becomes: did that break you or make you? Did it change, or shape you? What way did it shape you? Just that, from 10, hearing this from the court, then having mom denying this, but then also having siblings sort of not questioning you and stuff. How did that shape you as a young lady?
Oh, okay, yeah, that's very easy, because I remember it broke me a little bit, but it made me get closer to God. And when I got closer to God, I love the story of Joseph a lot, that I read about him and the 3 Hebrew children a lot. So I started studying, I started getting closer to God, and that was how I built a very strong relationship with God, because I realized that I have nobody other than God. Because the truth of the matter is, if my siblings could treat me this way, if my own biological father could deny me, and if my mother wouldn't tell me the truth, then I just have to hold on to God in totality. So it shaped me to become a stronger Christian in God, and it built my faith as a young child.
My goodness. Okay, so that's really fascinating to hear. So your mom didn't tell you and stuff. So after you finish your exams, what was the next step in your life?
Yeah, after I finished my exams, and the next thing I did was, I needed to. There were a lot going on. At some point, my mom was duped. We were all in private school. So for 2 years, we didn't go to school. We were out of school for 2 years after my mom was duped. So things became really, really bad. So for the first time, my secondary school was when we went to a public school. And when I finished secondary school, I have always been, I don't know where I got it from. I guess because I gave my life to Christ early. It opened my eyes to a lot of opportunity, a lot of things that I needed to do. And I remember I got a job when my result was not yet out. Then my WAEC result wasn't out. I got a job in Idumota. I don't know if you remember Idumota. Do you remember?
The name's familiar, but not
okay. So I got a job there. I was washing plates, actually. Okay. So my role was to wash plates. And And the woman was always looking at me like, you're so young and you speak so well. Why are you doing this? Well, I said, well, I have given my life to Christ. I needed money to be able to go to computer school, and I needed to save money. So I was washing plates. And, after I worked for 2 months, the woman promoted me to, I started going to the banks to take orders from the banks in the Idumota market. There are a lot of banks there. So I wasn't ashamed because I believe it's work. I'm not stealing, I'm not prostituting really. And I didn't use the cell phone until I think 2007, because really I was just focused on fulfilling purpose. I was focused on being right with God and being a good girl. So the first job I did was to work in a restaurant where I washed plates. And after that, I was able to raise money. I went to my computer school. And by the time I was finishing my computer school, I didn't have all the money to pay up at once. And that very day, oh God, this is so funny. I remember the very first day I was going to my computer school, a thought came to my mind and said, Denike, you will not be able to type. And I said, no, because I will be able to type. I will know it. I will be the best at it. And by the time I got to school, I sat in the lab and I was just typing Robinson, Denike, my name. And one of the lecturers came in and said, oh, have you been to a computer school before? I said, no. He said, you type so well. I've never even seen it, been to a computer school at that point. And I remember finishing my computer school. Every other person got their results. I didn't get my results because I haven't finished paying. And on the day of graduation, I was the best student overall. So I was so proud of myself that, oh my God, I nailed it, It's part of what the devil tried to sell to me, and I didn't buy it. And I was able to counter it immediately. So after that, I got admission. I started working, in a law firm as a secretary, and I was very good at it. While doing that, I started going to jump classes so that I can go to university. And after I did that, I got admission at Railway Technical School. I don't know if you remember Yabate Joshua, where the NTA Channel 10 is. Yeah. I got admission there as a computer engineering student in Railway Technical School. I was the only girl in the class. I was very good at it. And but I was determined to go to university, because out of my siblings at that point, none of them had gone to the university. But I told myself that I am going to break this. I am going to go to school. So I did the JAM that year. I was able to get into LASSO to study computer science. Okay.
So so you mentioned going to private school. So will I take it that your parents were you guys were well off, and they could afford that type of lifestyle for you guys?
Yes, they were. My mom was. They were good with my stepdad. They had money until someone duped my mom. So that's when we ran into crisis, and we were home for 2 years before we to come back home. Yes.
So and the reason I'm asking that, because all of a sudden that in itself can break somebody if you are going to a private school, and if you're used to sort of that type of lifestyle, and all of a sudden you're now going to a sort of a state school, and then you're washing plates and having to fend for yourself. Did you then handle it better than your siblings? I mean, is it because of the experience that you had when you were 10 and sort of subsequently 15, seen at Webster, that gave you that sense of, I have to, whatever it takes? Or if you didn't have that experience, if you were one of your dad's 5, if you're one of the 5, same dad, you think you might have handled things differently?
Okay, yeah. I was able to handle it well to a large extent, but sometimes I break down. That's the truth. Because, going to a public school for the first time, it was strange, because we had to, the kind of toilets they are, the kind of classrooms they are, the kind of chairs we sit in, there's no fan, no, nothing. It was terrible. But then I just had to know that this is my present reality. And I think what helped me the most is the fact that I had given my life to Christ. So there were a lot of teachings, going on, as in you holding on, pressing forward in spite of what life throws at you. So I guess that helped me manage the situation better than my siblings, because I was coming from a gratitude perspective that at least I'm still alive. If I wasn't alive, I won't be able to complain. But they were more like, oh, my mommy had done this, if daddy had done this, they were ungrateful. So I guess that was what gave me an edge. The fact that I knew Christ, I was coming from the gratitude aspect of perspective, and that helped me manage it. But several times I break down. Several times I break down. That is the truth, because sometimes I just sit down and I cry and cry. God, why me? Why do I have to go through this? But because they encourage us to always read our Bible all the time, so I study a lot. It got me closer to God, and it really helped. The Holy Spirit, actually, my senior partner, really helped me manage the situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the question that I then have is, in the midst of all this, did you have any allies within the family? I mean, I know you've got your siblings, and you've got aunties and uncles and grandparents. Did you have anyone who, despite all this, that was still supportive of you and that you encouraging you along the way?
Yes, I had one of my mom's younger sister, and she was very supportive of me. One of my younger sister, we're still very close to today. She's very supportive of me, and a few of my aunties, they were really supportive of me, because they know that, just tell me, Denike, you can do it, you're doing great and everything. They're always there to cheer me up, they're always rooting for me. So I had a support system, and my grandmother was very supportive till she died. Okay.
And then but then finally, I guess the question is, you changing your name, why? I think later on in life I can understand, but what was the reason then to say, okay, I'm going to change my name? What was the motivator to do that?
Well, I believe that, if this man had denied me in court, and also my siblings used it against me, that my younger sister, then it's not, and now I have found my real, my true identity, this is who I am, Robinson. So I believe I just wanted to bear his name. I just wanted to change my name, because that means, to me, he has lost me by saying that in court, that he was not my father. Because if he hadn't said that, really, I would appreciate him, for taking, even if I found out eventually, I would appreciate him. Oh my God, you took care of me. I would continue to bear his name. But for him to say that publicly, that was a public disgrace. Even as young as I was, it tore me apart. It tore me apart, and that's why I felt it doesn't deserve that I should continue to bear his name. Because eventually, if I want to get married, they will probably see it's not coming. So what's the point?
Yeah. Now, as a child psychotherapist, I mean, and when you're dealing with trauma, and we go back and look at that specific incident and think, wow, how did that make you feel? A lot of kids struggle with that. Some kids struggle when they find out that they're adopted and things like that. And so there's quite a bit of work involved. But what I'm hearing from you is that your type of therapy was your faith and your religion as a way of coping and actually identifying with people like Joseph, which shows how, with the work that you sort of did, humbling yourself and doing that type of work and that determination. But then also and it also sort of supported you through the adversity of when financial ruin came around the family and everyone had to adapt in their life. So moving forward then, you'd gone to university, you'd come out. What was your relationship then like with mum, siblings, and even who later became your stepdad? What was the relationship like with all of them as you're 21 and growing?
Oh, well, like I said earlier, I'm still going to reiterate that God really, it's just been God, because my relationship with them did change, because I believe I have to keep loving them no matter what. I have to keep loving them and having a normal relationship with them. As tough as it was, I still have a good relationship with them. I talk to them normally, and of course, when they get me angry, I'm like, I tell them that. But then, I relate to them normally.
So no, this was good. So this was after university and stuff. So there was no time of rift and now we've healed, or was it you continued to say, well, I'll keep maintaining the peace despite what I've heard and everything?
Okay, what was the question again? That have I healed?
So I'm talking about, say, back when you just finished university. How was even during the time of university? How were you towards everyone at that age, so
Oh.
21. So at that time, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was okay with everyone. I was good. I was having a normal relationship with them. As much as I know that they have, you know, they didn't have a good relationship with me from their own perspective, because it shows in the way they treat me, it shows in the way they behave to me. But then I don't behave towards them the same way. I don't give them the same reaction for their action. Yeah.
So then, okay, so now we've, you know, you're back and you're out of university. Has your mum then said, okay, let's sit down, you're now a woman, I can tell you who your dad is and explain what happened? Or how did that go?
No way, she didn't tell me. I remember mommy, she didn't tell me. She did not tell me till she died. She didn't tell me because, wow, okay. After that, I went to my grandmother and I started, you know, the quest for Mr. Robinson.
Oh, your grandmom didn't, did your grandmom not know?
No, she didn't know. She was not in the country. She was in the UK when she gave that to me. So I went to meet her, you know, when I found out. Then she told me she came back 2 years. She was in the UK for 2 years. And by the time she came back, you know, she knew that there was something off with me being the child, you know, because my mom's younger sister got to know about it. So we started the quest of looking for my dad, you know. We couldn't get who the person was. Then everybody was all out. My mom's older brother was looking out. Everybody was looking for Mr. Robinson all around. So I remember in 2006, on the 2nd of January, my mom's immediate older sister older brother called me and said I should come to his house. So I was wondering, Uncle Tony wouldn't call me to come to his house for anything. So I got there. And when I got there and I saw a man came in, and I was like, 2 men rather. So in my mind, I was like, Uncle Tony can't be serious. Does he want to give me a boyfriend or something? Because I couldn't place him. So eventually, they now said, Denike, then that's your father. And I was like, what? Really? You know, so that was when I met Mr. Robinson for the first time. And then I met my cousins. I met his nieces, his nephews, and you know, everybody was like, "Oh my God, Esther! Oh my God, you're all grown up." Yes, I'm Esther. That's my middle name.
Okay, I thought they knew you. Did he know who you were? Did he have pictures? Was he tracking you? Or?
Well, he didn't have pictures of me. He was shocked too, because when he saw me, because I was a baby. The last time he saw me, that was 8 days old. I was 8 days old the last he saw me.
So he knew of you. He knew
of me. Yes, he did.
Okay.
He did. And then, you know, and when I now met one of his niece, she said that, oh, no, uncle. He told his uncle, I said, uncle, you see, this was the girl that you came. You know, my story is so funny that what I was told by my Robinson side, by that side, you know, the side I met is not actually the Robinson side. It's his mother's side that I met.
Okay.
Initially, before I now started meeting the Robinsons, which is his father's side. So his mother's side, the woman told me that on the 8th day, when they were naming me, maybe they would have been calling me Ace now. I don't know. The minute they finished giving me name, Denike Esther Robinson, he came and then he scattered the naming ceremony. He came with a card and said it was not the one that gave birth. He's not the one that gave birth to me. And I'm like, what?
No. Okay, I'm trying to remember. Who did this? Your actual dad or your stepdad?
My actual dad.
So, so he came and said, were they going to name you after him? Even though
No, they already named me. And then that was what I was told, that on the 8th day after they gave me the naming ceremony, he came and said that he was not the one. He's not my father.
But at this time, where was your stepdad and your older siblings? Were they all around and they saw this? They knew what was happening?
Well, I don't think they were all around. I don't think they were all around, because this story I'm telling you is from Robinson's mother's side, Mr. Robinson's mother's side. Mm-hmm. One of his nieces was the one narrating the story, that look at, you're proud of this girl now, that remember on the 8th day what you did. So I was like, what did you do on the 8th day? And she told me the story.
But no, but that would be strange because you would have heard this from aunties and everyone saying how they would have all known that you were.
The only person that knew about me was my mom's best friend.
Okay. So unless he was having his own naming ceremony at his own place among his own families, and he decided not to continue. But
it was at his place. It was at his family place. That was where they were doing the naming ceremony. He didn't come.
Oh, so but this isn't. But you weren't there, and your mom wasn't there, was it?
I was there with my mom. She was holding me.
But why would she take you to his family to do a naming ceremony if she hasn't publicly admitted that you weren't the daughter of her husband?
It was after. The story is a bit tricky. My story, even me myself, I'm still unfolding who I really am.
Okay.
Because the truth of the matter is, I remembered, when I just gave my life to Christ, before I even saw that birth certificate, I had a revelation, and I saw a general sitting down in a mansion with 2 children. And when I entered, I had a voice from heaven saying, "That is your father." So when I woke up, I went to one of my mentors. I said, "I've seen my mansion in heaven. I saw Jesus Christ." That was my interpretation of it. Until 3 months after, when I was going to go to the library, before I saw my birth certificate, that was when it dawned on me that was what God was talking about.
Okay.
So even me myself, I'm still unfolding who I really am.
Yeah. Okay, there's quite a lot there. So now you've met him. What was that feeling like then, meeting the Mr. Robinson that you've changed your name to after all this time? Was it excitement, or was it like did he meet up to the expectations, or what was it like?
Okay, he didn't really meet up to all the expectations, but I was so excited because that finally I have somebody I can say, this is my father, and this is truly my father. I was so excited. I was extremely excited when I met him.
Okay.
I felt so good.
Was your mom still alive at the time you met him?
Yes, she was.
Did you let her know that you met him?
Well, I told her. And I told her it was her brother that took me to him.
What was her reaction?
She felt bad. She was like, okay.
And she never, but there was no conversation about, okay, let me explain what happened and everything.
Never conversation. I think there's even more to the story. There's more to the story because, at some point I was confused. I'm always challenging God that why me, God, why? But I don't know. I believe that there's a purpose for my life.
Yeah.
And there is a reason why I have to go through this, because the story of my life, sometimes by the time if I think about it myself, it's as if I'm watching movies. That's the way it is to me. And because another thing came up, even after I got married, I had a revelation again that wasn't my father, Robinson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at that point, I gave birth to my second child, and my mom was not in Nigeria, so she came to Nigeria to take care of me because I gave birth to all my children via C-section. So she came when I gave birth to the second child, and I remember her calling her into my room and asking her again, "Mommy, I had this dream again, and this thing is telling me that Mr. Robinson is still not my dad." And she was like, "That's your dad." And I'm like, "This is what," I said, "Well," so I left it. I said, "Well, she should tell me that, because right now I'm married. I have my children already. I don't need a name, but I need to know my roots. I need to know who I really am, where I really came from. I don't even know if I'm Hausa or Igbo or Delta." People see me and tell me, "You look like Delta," and I'm like, "I'm actually a Yoruba girl." So now I'm beginning to think like, am I truly Yoruba or am I Delta and all that?
Yeah.
So in 2014, as of 2014, I was 7 months pregnant of my daughter, my last baby. And then that was when I met my mom's best friend for the first time in a long time. And then we met at a burial ceremony, a party. So as I drove, and her son was in front of me, I drove and I parked behind her son. Immediately I saw her, I knew that I know her, but I couldn't place it. So she was looking at me and I was looking at her. Later she called for me and I went to meet her. And she called a name. She said, "Dada." I don't know if you've heard that name, Dada, before. I said, for somebody to call me Dada, you must know me from since I was a baby, Nazareth, And I'm like, I had dread when I was a baby from birth.
Yeah. Okay.
When she called me Dada, I knew that she must have known me from birth. And the next thing she said, she was like, "Oh, how about your dad? I said, yes, he's fine. Mr. Robinson, I've met him finally. She was like, your mom didn't tell you. I said, tell me what? She said that that's not your dad. That your dad is either a policeman or a soldier, because when they gave birth to you, he got promoted and it was shown on TV. And that was the time that maybe only one apartment had a TV and other people would come and watch. And she can remember vividly. And she kept counting it. Hey, your mom gave birth to this and this. Hey, it's you now. Are you Esther? I said yes. Denike, I said yes. I was like, oh my God, what is this? So I went to meet her. Later on that year, I felt bad. As at this point, my mom was sick. She was back in Nigeria. She had stroke. And then I went to meet her. And I was like, Mommy, you said something that really got me worried. That I was excited already. And finally, I met my true dad. Why are you saying this? She now said she can't really tell me that I need to go and meet my mom and ask her to tell me that your dad is a public figure then, but then, and she mentioned another thing that got me scared, because she was like, I'm used to 85, and she said I was 83, and I'm like, what? Do you mean I was 30 years ago? I was at that point, it broke me. I was traumatized. I was seeing therapists. I was sick. I hated my mom, like for real this time around, because I was like, why? When you came to take care of my second son, I asked you because I saw this, and you didn't tell me. Why do I have to hear it from a stranger? I felt bad. I didn't go and see her for 6 months. I felt really bad because I felt like, she wasn't being fair to me, and it was not nice of her to treat me that way. So that's it about the story of my father.
My goodness, mysteries. Now, but I noticed now that you're still answering Robinson, but you mentioned you were married and with kids. What is your husband? Is he also Robinson, or what happened with the name?
Oh my God, that's so funny. No, it's not. I'm actually separated right now.
Okay.
The divorce process is almost over. Oh. So I got married in 2008. I was married for 10 years. My surname then was Oladipo. We were really close, but at some point, emotional abuse set in. Then when it became physical abuse, that was when I left. So when I just changed my name, all my accounts are still his name because the divorce is not over yet. And I wouldn't have changed my name back to Robinson because he said it's because he has been begging me to come back. And I said I was not coming back because my life was more important. Because if I had died on those 2 occasions that he eats me, really, that's the end of me. I now put it in the petition that he wants me to change my name that should stop bearing his name. Although my lawyers are fighting it, that initially I was fighting it that really I have 3 children in this marriage, and why would you tell me to change my name? And my lawyer said I can actually bear any name I choose to. But at some point, as I was eating and I was getting better, and I realized that what's the point? And just on social media that I'm bearing my father's name now. But other than that, all my accounts are still Robinson, still Oladipo until the divorce is finalized, and eventually may probably change my name. I'll definitely change it.
So you've gone through sort of one trauma of finding out that the dad who you thought was your dad wasn't. The struggles with your siblings, and then you go through the hardship of life financially, get to school, fund yourself. Then you get this sort of out of the blue, okay, here's your dad, and you're elated with, okay, and now then you find out that, okay, no, he's not, he may not really be, mum's not well, and then you're also now in a marriage which you thought things were great started to change. I mean, how looking back did you start to think, wow, what's going on, why me, or what was it like?
Looking back, if it was like a few years back, right now, I would not even be able to hold this conversation. I'll be crying because I felt that I had failed. Because, giving my life to Christ, I did everything right. As a matter of fact, he met me as a virgin. I was a very good girl, and eventually I felt like it was over. All the hardship and the pain that I had gone through was over, and it really hurts me that my marriage didn't work. can't do this.
That's fine.
Because I didn't want my children to go through what I've been through. I wanted them to be with their dad, and and the fact I didn't work. I can't do this. Sorry.
No, that's fine. And I think one of the things that I'm hearing from you is, I'm sitting here amazed, and as I said, I deal with all sorts of traumas, but hearing your story has been really one revelation after another, and it's really surprised me how strong you've been throughout this, and I think I can see where it fuels this passion to help others, which is remarkable. And you mentioned Joseph. Joseph goes, despite all his trauma and hardship, he goes into Egypt and saves the world. He didn't just save Egyptians, but he was saving every nation that needed food, and eventually he was able to reach out and save his own family. But I think so. As I said, I'm listening to you. I'm like, wow, this is a very strong and remarkable woman, and my hope is that you're not feeling any guilt or any blame in this.
Yeah, it really hurts me. I'm so sorry about that.
No,
it really hurts me that I didn't want my children to go through what I've been through, because I know what it feels like not to know your father and everything.
Yeah.
So I really prayed. I really worked out this marriage that I had to work.
Mm-hmm.
I would go for counseling. I would go for therapies. He did a lot of things in the marriage. Mm-hmm. He brought a woman to the house 2 different times. I had sex with her in my matrimonial house. At some points, he attempted to rape my younger sister. But I said like that, I really wanted the marriage to work. Mm-hmm. I was really praying. I really prayed. I went for counseling, but it wouldn't come with me. And when it got to the point that it became physical abuse, that was when I knew that I put it on my best. I didn't want to have a broken home, because I believe so much in marriage. Mm-hmm. And I've been through a broken home. I know what it feels like. You're just isolated. You're lonely out there. Mm-hmm. I didn't want that for my children, but I'm happy that I'm alive, because when it hits me, if I had died, also I chose to live so that I can live, so that I'll be alive to be able to take care of my children. So that's it, basically.
Yeah. So I guess the question that I have in the midst of this is, when the realization comes that, because you've shown as a child where you stood up and says, I'm going to have my own identity and become my own person. So you show that. You showed when you took up a job, which starting up cleaning plates and taking that sort of Joseph sort of humility. You showed that when you went and changed your name. And I guess I wonder, when did that reflection come that, as much as I want my kids to have a stable family home with both parents there, but the price I'm having to pay in order to secure that is becoming far too much, and it's becoming detrimental not only for myself, but eventually could happen for my kids. What was the moment when it hits you that, things need to change and I need to move forward?
Yeah, well, I had to weigh my options, because I realized that if I stay in a marriage, in an abusive marriage, it would have an eternal effect, negative effect on my children, because they will grow up believing that, men can go and get away with eating their wives. Mm-hmm. And for my daughter, she would grow up believing that if a man eats you, it doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. You should endure it and everything. So I chose, and I know that living also would have effect on them, because now they're not under the roof of both parents. They have to be here for some time and be here for some time. Mm-hmm. But I know that I realize that I know the kind of children I'm raising. I'm raising God's generals. I'm raising godly fathers. I'm raising leaders of tomorrow. I'm raising godly mothers, godly wives. I'm not just raising my own children, but I'm raising somebody's husband, somebody's father. I'm raising somebody's wife or somebody's mother, and that made me to live, because if I leave, they will know, they will be able to eventually, if it happens, see the other side of marriage, that truly there's love, unity, and warmth and happiness in marriage, other than what they are seeing presently. The fact that, being abused. Several times, my first son told me that I would be in the bedroom, he would be outside, and he would hear their dad shouting on me and saying all sorts of things. I didn't want them to grow with that. So it dawned on me that, I needed to leave, because these children, I hold them a lot, and I owe God a lot to, it was tough, knowing that God doesn't like divorce, but I know at the same time God doesn't like abusers, because if I had died there, he wouldn't be happy, because I had a lot to do. I had a purpose to fulfill. There's a reason why he put me here on earth to on earth. I'm not an afterthought, so I need to now start fulfilling my purpose while, so it dawned on me that my children needed a better to see the other side of marriage, not the abusive one.
So the question then I have is, because, and this would reflect back on the work that you're doing now, is that in the midst of what you're going through, did you reach out to family and friends and say, this is what's going on? And they were like, wow, we didn't realize, let's help you? Or did you think, no, I need to keep this private and not let people know what's happening?
Yeah, actually, I told my auntie and my uncle from my mother's side, and they believe that with this Nigerian mentality and cultural mentality, this tradition that, no matter what, you have to endure it, you have to stay in that home. I said, I've endured a lot of things. I've endured a lot of emotional abuse at some point. As a matter of fact, at some point, I was suicidal. I was going to drive to Thorn Milan Bridge, and somebody called me, my mentor, she's late now. And at that point, she just said the Holy Spirit just started telling her that she should call me. And she said, where are you? I said, I'm driving. Where are the children? They're in the car. I said, I'm going to Third Milan. Where are you going to? I said, I don't know. Wow. And she just started praying in tongues for me. So in that marriage, I had been suicidal. I had endured the fact that he attempted to rape my younger sister. I had endured the fact that he brought a girl that lives on my street to the house 2 different times to sleep with her in my house. So I told them, and they were still not supportive of me. They were like, no, you should enjoy it. He's a good guy. I said, he's a good guy. You're not the one living with him. Yeah. I am the one living with him. I am the one. I know I'm the one putting on the shoes. I know where it pinches and all that. But a few of my friends were really supportive of me. And one of my older brother and my younger siblings were supportive of me, because they were like, no, they know me so well to be level-headed, someone who is humble, who would, as much as I'm humble, I'm very, what do I call it? I am very, what's the word again? I know what I want. I wouldn't take nonsense. I am a no-nonsense person. And, and I guess another thing that happened in the marriage was, so they didn't support me. At that point, while I was still married, I was volunteering for Youth Empowerment Foundation, gender-based violence. So I would go to public school. I wasn't collecting money to talk to girls about GBV, gender-based violence, educate them and all that. So when they got to know about what I was going through, that was when I was referred to WARIF, Women at Risk International. They heard my story, and then they were able to get a shelter for me, for my children and I.
Okay.
I never knew there was a domestic violence shelter in Nigeria. I never knew there was such organization. There are a lot actually in Nigeria. So my children and I were homeless for like 8 months. So we were living at the domestic violence shelter, and it was when I was there that I was able to, I started my website, which is the Denike Foundation, to help other women going through what I've been through.
Yeah, and I think this is something that at least people should be aware of, that it's quite common that if you are a victim of domestic or any type of abuse, that there's a sense of guilt and blame. Did you think so? It almost thinks as if you're reaching out for help, but there's a part of you that, and I don't know, that people wonder why you'd stay in for 10 years if you've endured this. But at any point, did you feel a part of some of it was your fault, that you weren't a better wife, that you weren't doing enough?
Yeah, I felt at some point I did, because, people told me that you've endured it for 10 years. Why not endure it for another 10, and then another 10, and eventually it would change and all that. I felt bad, because I felt I had failed, because while I was married, I've always had groups for women with wisdom on BlackBerry back then, on WhatsApp, where we'll pray together, we'll encourage each other and everything. And I felt like I had failed them. And the fact that I did forgive myself initially, because I felt that if I'd waited patiently, I wouldn't have then made the wrong decision of a man in the first place. So I was so hard on myself that I made the wrong decision of getting married to the wrong man, because I saw the red flags. I didn't even know because I didn't even know what got into me. So I felt it took me a long time to forgive myself. I felt like I'd failed myself, I'd failed God, I'd failed people that are looking up to me, I've failed a lot of women out there. But right now, I think I'm over that. At some point, I felt that way.
Yeah. So now with when you reflect back, what is it that you're doing now to help people, women, even children that might have experienced the same thing that you've gone through? Because you mentioned, I know I introduced you as a sort of a life coach, but also running an organization which you mentioned to have women in refuge. So how do you sort of take your experiences to shape the type of work that you're doing now?
Okay, so what I do presently right now is I have a foundation called Denike Foundation. It's a platform that helps domestic violence survivors get shelter, because one of the major reasons why women die in Nigeria is because family won't take them back if they're going through abuses. They believe that, you're married and you're married for life. Even if this guy is beating you and your life is at risk, you should be there. So the fear for women is that, where will I go with my children? Where will I be? What's going to help me? So the shelter, the roof over their head, is always one of the first major concern. So that's why I partner with a lot of shelters in Nigeria, where when people are going through search, we help them. And also with my experience, I go to talk to them, I share my story with them, my journey with them, how I have healed, journey of how I've healed, what I have done, to help them feel better about themselves. Because at that point is the worst time. Because I remember several times at the shelter where I will cry and cry, because I'm like, oh my God, when is this going to be over? I didn't have a car anymore. I'm now living in a place where, like a manger, But then I shared my story of what I was doing at the shelter with them, to help them know that they are not alone. I give them support. We go there we get therapists. There are a lot of people who work with me that are therapists that we go to talk to them. They do therapy with them. I coach them through the process of going through, because they can't jump it. It's a process. Yeah. They just have to heal. They have to be aware that they are in this is the reality right now, but then walk them through the process. And then I share my experience with them of what I did at the shelter, how I would call women to 12 a.m., wake them up to pray. At 12 a.m., I would, talk to the children, So all the things I did at the shelter, so I'm helping them heal, go through the process. And I've helped a lot of women. Just recently, I still helped a woman on the island in Lekki that her husband was beating her and, locked her up in the house with children, so I'm doing that, yes.
I mean, when you reflect on the question we always ask is that if you're sick, you go to the doctor, but we always ask the doctor, when you're sick, what do you do? And they say, no, I'm managed. So how do you continue to get your own sort of healing from, because you've gone through quite a lot over the years, and even as we're speaking, you could see that some things touch you. How do you continue? And so I guess it's important so that people don't assume that, okay, after 2 years, that's it, you're fine. Because the reality is that some things do take time. So for yourself, what is your healing process continuously?
Okay, my healing process continuity is the fact that I know that time truly heals, because initially when I just got out, I was telling myself I don't want to hear man in my life. I don't want to hear anything, because I thought that was like, meeting him, a fine gentleman, which is actually the end of everything I've suffered as a young child. Yeah. And then the fact that he disappointed me big time. And, I didn't want to hear anything that has to do with men. But, as time goes, I was healing gradually, holding on to God, faith and all that. And I was doing what I love to do. I love to swim. I love to spend time with my children. I want to play basketball. I want to play lawn tennis. I want to ride bicycle with my children. We do all of the fun things together. So I realized that I started doing more fun things for myself. I started believing in myself again, that I am enough. And I remember when I just got out there and people were like, oh, Denike, you can't remarry. I said, I'm so young. Really? I'm so young. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to be 35 this year, November this year. So I'm like, I'm so young not to enjoy the other side of marriage and everything, as much as I really don't want to have children anymore. But so, and I love to read also. So I went online and I Googled. I saw a book written by Kenneth E. Hagin, Marriage, Divorce, and Remarriage. And that was it for me. Because one, it shows to me that because Kenneth Hagin's book that I've read is Tongues, they are spiritual books. So I was shocked that Kenneth Hagin could pick interest in this kind of topic. So I bought the book while I was at the shelter, and that was the first book I bought when I got out. And I started reading this book, and I started eating because I missed all the pastors in the Nigeria that would tell you, no, you cannot do this. You have to be married. You have to stay married. And they can't tell me they are more spiritual than Kenneth Hagin. Well, they might be, but the truth is that I respect this man so much, and for him to see it as a topic that is important, and that was like, oh my God, I feel like, oh my God, finally somebody gets me, somebody gets it, you know. And so that book really helped me a great deal. So for anyone opting, you need to get that book, Marriage, Divorce, and Remarriage. It's a book written by Kenneth E. Hagin himself. It's an amazing book that I read that helped me, you know, through it. And also, I feel right now, like I said, I just do me. What do I mean by do me? I do what makes me happy. I don't cage myself to my past any longer. You know, I told myself, do I want to cage myself to the prison of my past or be an architect to my future? So I have chosen to be an architect to my future. There's a lot I need to achieve. Probably, I'm always telling people, first female president in Nigeria. So I don't want to cage myself to my past, hold on to the past. Let me move on. So that's really helping me to, like, you know, heal. Like, there's a lot more to offer. There's a lot more to do, you know, out there. And so I guess that's how I continue to heal. Yeah. And also, just recently, sorry about that. Just recently, since 2018, my ex-husband saw my children for the first time. We wouldn't come to see them. I asked him, tell him not to come and see them. He came to see them, I think last week, and that was a true test of my healing. Just last week, and I realized that when we were together, you know, I was not angry, I was not bitter, I was not upset, and neither was I in love with him. But I was relating with him because of the children, and that really showed me that I've truly healed. Because initially when we talk on the phone, we are angry, we are shouting at each other. No way, you can't do this, you did this to me, you hurt me. Now, all that, I didn't even do all that. I was just flowing, and I was just, you know, we took pictures together, we ate together, and then I brought the children home while the divorce is still on. It's almost over anyway. Wow. So that's the proof that I've truly healed. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've... and one of the things that I've learned to do is to not to know too much before I meet a guest, because I want to be curious about their journey and ask questions out of curiosity. So of course your story about your dad and everything, I was trying to dig in just because it's like, that's remarkable. But you know, so I don't come in with a script of what we're going to talk about. So that's why I have to really thank you for being very open today. You're really showing your strength, showing your courage. You know, I'm sure if I was a Hollywood producer, I would probably start writing your story right now and make it open-ended, because you know the ending would be so much more glorious than the beginning. But it's because you're showing that. But it was really touching to see that even in the midst of the strength, that humility and vulnerability is still there, which is remarkable, because I think it's important for other people to see, whether male or female, who are going through hardship, they do have times when it might be tough, and if they see that somebody like yourself, who's very strong and very passionate and can still have moments like that, it shows that, okay, it's not just me. And I think that was very powerful and very important and very touching, because so many times we see our leaders always show a strong side, and we never see the weak side. And when we're weak, we can't see them struggling. And you know, it was really powerful to see that. And I really appreciated the fact that you were able still to continue and go on and stuff. Yeah.